Welcome and greetings to greetings and welcome, reanimated fans. This is the 87th. Are we sure? Have we fact checked that number, HA?
Uh, that could or could not be correct.
This is our episode in the high 80s. We will go back and fact check that later. I'm pretty sure. I think that sounds right. 87th episode of Reanimated, the podcast about all things undead and zombified. We are bi-coastal. My name is Stuart Tiffin. I'm one of your hosts on the other side of the country. Much later in the day is the amazing
I think you need more coffee.
H.A. Conrad.
Yes.
Greetings. Hello. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you. I just had an earthquake about an hour ago.
Oh, really?
It's just a tiny one. Hasn't even shown up on the USGS map. So
Hmm.
those are just the ones that let you know it's not all a dream. When it's 6 o'clock in the morning and you're like, what's happening? Why is my monitor waving back and forth at me?
I don't know. Forest fires, earthquakes. I don't know, Stuart.
There's a reason they call this place God's country, HA.
Uh,
I think it's because we're so much closer to him. Because we're all going to die soon. But anyway, that's what's going on in my world. Yeah,
are you bringing this episode to us, sponsored by Squarespace?
that's what's happening. I guess they're bringing it to us.
They
sponsored by
are, as
themselves.
always. They always bring it.
Squarespace, build it beautiful. They are an all-in-one platform that make it easy to create your own website. You don't even need a credit card to sign up for your trial. It only costs like $8.99 a month
Yep.
for hosting. And if you use the code ZOMBIE at checkout for your first purchase, you'll get 10% off. So it's quite the deal. They are the go-to hosting and website creation.
And they're awesome.
They are. So this week we are doing a movie review.
Yes, ma'am.
We are talking about a film that I had not really heard of, but it was a pleasant surprise. Blood-Sucking Bastards, starring Fran Kranz and Pedro Pascal, who I didn't even realize was in it until it was on.
Oh, really?
I was like, holy crap! It's the Sand Scorpion or whatever his name was in Game of Thrones. Yeah. The Viper, the Red Viper, maybe something like that. So yeah, fun movie, and we've got a couple of tidbits of zombie news, and so we will be throwing those at you. So thank you for joining us. AJ, kick it off with the news.
Well, in the news, as one would expect around this time of year, there are numerous zombie walks, zombie runs, zombie sort of festivals, many, many links to these things so you can get a sense of what people's costumes are. Denver often has some really cool effects for just like the layperson, which is I like. So I encourage you to check those out. But of course, as one would expect when there's a mass gathering of people, there was, one sort of horrible thing that happened, a tragic death. And of course, it was in Florida. There was some kind of a shooting surrounding a zombie festival. And so far, very little news about this, except that somebody is dead, and they're like, I think it was just like in the street. So, go for it, Florida. Once again, you seem to take things to another level when it comes to this kind of thing. I think that this would be, quite frankly, terrifying if you were in this particular place when this happened. Can you imagine, like, just the mass stampede?
No, I don't even want to.
I do not want to imagine. I hope everybody else is okay. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, messed up. Try to get your shit together, Florida.
right. But I think as we see October roll on, we'll see even more of these things. Not hopefully tragedies, but zombie walks and other things. And keep it safe, people. Keep it safe. And in other news, I don't know if you and I have talked about this. There is a graphic novel / comic book series called Z-Men. and it is about basically these federal agents that go out and are zombie hunters.
That makes me laugh because it sounds like semen.
I know, which is why I laugh every time I think about this
But
particular
it's supposed to
title.
be like a series like Z-Men, as in G-Men.
Right.
Right, okay.
And apparently it's been optioned by Lionsgate to be a movie adaptation. So it looks interesting so far. I guess we'll kind of track this a little bit, but it makes me want to go out and read the series, which I have not yet. So
Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
curious to see what it is. And the sort of kicker in this particular universe is that it's supposed to take place in the Romero-based universe where Night of the Living Dead happens. So
Interesting.
so it could be kind of interesting. Just, I think perhaps I will check it out.
Yeah, we should take a look.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the news today. So do you want to launch into our movie review for this week?
Bloodsucking Bastards is a film put together by a comedy troupe, not unlike Super Troopers, is kind of the vibe I'm getting from it with Broken Lizard. And that was just, nobody kind of saw Super Troopers coming or the success that those guys had. Well, I guess some flops, some successes. And so this is kind of in the same vein. You've got a handful of comics, and they have collaborated with other actors, and they made this little movie about vampires and corporate life, and it's pretty damn endearing, and it was a lot of laughs.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I had never really heard of this troupe before. Had you?
No, never heard of them. What's their name again?
They're called Dr. God.
Dr. God, yeah.
And they're an improv troupe, and there's, we'll throw a couple of links into the show notes. There's a few interviews with them. And I mean, this is definitely, it had, the film for me had the feel of a little Shaun of the Dead, but a little bit of The Office as well. And I think that they did a fairly good job at juxtaposing those two things together. And I thought it was a solid effort. It got 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. I personally would rank it a little higher than that. I think that to me, it was a lot of fun and laugh out loud in spots. So,
Yeah.
but
To me, it was
my immediate review is just, I had a lot of fun with this.
Absolutely. I also felt a strong Workaholics vibe and some Mad Men, because one of the actors from Mad Men actually plays Teddy, the branch manager. So I was like, oh, okay, now I feel like I'm just in one of the crazy episodes from like season 3 of Mad Men when they actually had soul.
Right. And pretty great cast that they put together.
It was a great
Definitely
cast.
solid.
And this is the funny thing. Dr. God, the guys who are in it are all playing supporting roles. They were apparently in the casting process were like, you know what, let's not be the lead characters. So they found, Fran Kranz is the lead, and he's fantastic. I don't know why he's not in everything.
And people know him from Cabin in the Woods and Dollhouse and a lot of Joss Whedon enterprises.
Exactly.
And then Pedro Pascal, who you had mentioned, Game of Thrones. And now he's in Narcos, which I have not yet seen, but I've been hearing everybody say good things about it.
Yeah, he's great in Narcos.
Oh, so you're liking it. Okay.
I saw that.
And then we have just a bunch of other people. A real standout was Joey Kern, who I really enjoyed. He plays Tim.
Yeah, he plays the best friend and unrepentant slacker.
Right, and he was in Cabin Fever, but also in Super Troopers. So he was pretty good. And everybody else was fantastic. I thought that this was clearly a cast that was having a lot of fun working together on this.
I think special mention definitely needs to go out to Marshall Givens as
yes.
Frank.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Just like kind of a character you didn't really expect the jokes coming from him that you were getting, and then suddenly, and it was partially his acting, partially the editing and the storytelling. When it turns out that him and Tim are just sitting next to each other for
that was
these
great.
flashbacks, it was just a really good laugh. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching. I guess everybody in this film. Yvette Yates is just kind of there to be not Yvette Yates. Emma Fitzpatrick is kind of just there to be the hotness, but she also has some good comic timing and expressions. But I guess really besides them, it was more it was pretty much everybody who got some screen time did a good job, frankly.
Right. And as I said, like they really seem to be playing well off of each other. Based on some of the interviews that I was reading, they did an enormous, and given the fact that they're an improv group, they did, obviously they wrote the script, but they had fully admitted that a lot of the lines were just improvised and just things that happened in the moment. So I have a feeling that this was probably a lot of fun for everybody involved to make. And there were definitely moments, I don't know if you caught this, but there's definitely moments when you feel like certain actors are having a hard time keeping it together. Like you feel like they're about to crack up.
It was interesting, like
Because some of it's just so silly and ridiculous, and it's supposed to be, but there's just really good energy. It keeps moving it along. I mean, I will say the sort of office shtick thing got a little old after a while, but they didn't go on too long. This was a pretty sound 86 minutes, and so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they definitely had something to say about American office culture. I guess they're not fans of either telemarketing or telesales, which is exactly what they do in Workaholics, which is why it feels so much like that. And and they take that disdain for that career field and then inject the hook of this movie, or the big joke is that Ted knowingly brings in Max, a vampire, to like turn around his sales team.
Right. And I mean, it definitely has the whole Office Space, The Office, like all that sort of weird and super strange office culture. And that you even see in Dead Like Me too. Just this, like these inane bureaucratic policies and things that just make absolutely no sense, but for the office setting. And even then, they don't really make sense. So I liked how they played off of that quite a bit. That was pretty good. And then the whole corporate culture as well is they're just poking fun at it constantly throughout the film. I also liked the weird video game that they're playing within this film. Did you catch?
I mean, I see it on screen, but I was unfamiliar with it.
Well, I don't know if this came after, but it's actually, you can get it on PlayStation, the PlayStation Network, and Steam. But it's called Zombier, and basically it's a first-person shooter. And the idea of it is that in order to stay alive amongst the zombie horde, you have to be drunk. And so that's something that they were playing throughout this film, which I thought was kind of fun. I am not sure what the budget was for this, although it was clearly a low-budget film. But I think that one of the things that did bother me is that given what you can do now, I felt, and it, like, I don't know if you got the sense of this, but do you feel like it was on purpose, just sort of some of the choppiness, like they were trying to give it that look, or do you think it was because they just didn't have a ton of money? Like, I just felt like some of the camera shots were unnecessarily, like, choppy, and the lighting was kind of crappy in spots. But the editing, I thought, was good.
I didn't get that impression. I mean, it was clearly, they never went outside. They were inside for the entire film. They, like, the furthest outside they get is the parking garage. And, days pass just when you notice that, like, now they're walking back into the office from the parking garage. It's kind of so they obviously keep their costs down by keeping it all in one or two different sets. But I felt like it worked. They kept it very compressed, but it was fine. There were enough different rooms in their set to keep it, if not fresh, at least it was transitioning a fair amount of time.
I thought the effects were fairly decent too. I mean, they're silly, but they're definitely good, and they had fun with it as well, just making them overly ridiculous. One of the things that happens to the vampires is that when they're killed, they just kind of like explode with a just huge mass of blood, and you never actually see them fully explode. You just see like the wave of blood on the other characters, which just makes it more and more ridiculous, which I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know if that's a nod to True Blood, but that's what happens when vampires died in that show on Showtime.
Yeah.
And it does make for some pretty good laughs also towards the end of the film when Tim walks into a room and Evan and Mandy are making out just covered in Max's blood. And he's like, okay, this is so disgusting. Yeah, so by the end of the movie, everybody's just completely doused. One of the other effects that I thought was funny, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the very last line in the movie when Andrew kills the woman, the cleaning lady.
Right.
And then he's like, my office in 10. He's obviously got a mouthful of fake blood. And he like is having a hard time talking.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it over. They just kind of left it in there.
Yep.
So I thought was pretty an interesting way to just be like, all right, fuck it, we're out, mic drop.
Yep.
But yeah, honestly, I feel like the MVPs were Tim, what's his name, Mike Kern.
Yep.
Joey
I thought
Kern.
he was fantastic.
Yeah, and for me also Marshall Givens, who played Frank, the security guard, who didn't. I mean, he was a little bit one-dimensional, but they also just made it work. They kept that joke going.
Yep. I also thought Pedro Pascal did a good job as Max, just playing the super jerk. He played his part really well. I almost wish there had been a little bit more of him being a super jerk.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed having him in there. I thought he was great. And I actually really liked the whole janitor scene. When they finally, like, there's this janitor, nobody knows his name, but he's been basically stalking all of them, and he's all mad because they don't even know his name, and they don't realize that he's been a vampire all along. So it's like this kind of funny scene between him and Frank and not Max, sorry, him and Frank. And is Tim there too, or is it just?
Tim's there too. Okay. Yeah, that was a very funny scene. It's always funny when the bad guy is like, you're supposed to be scared, and then they just strip away all the tension through mocking.
Right, the bad guy.
I mean, I feel like Cabin Fever had a bit of that to it also. Yeah. But Cabin in the Woods, rather.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods. I feel like Joey Kern does play that character pretty well, and that seems to be kind of his standard way of playing characters. So, I think he did a good job. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this a lot. I think it did feel very LA to me. I don't know if that's something you got to.
I guess not. I don't know. No, I don't know what is it exactly that you thought was LA.
Oh, just I mean, just it felt like an LA endeavor, so similar to how Cabin in the Woods felt, and it just has like this, and The Office, honestly, it just has this like sort of LA patina to it, which I felt, more so when then they were walking outside after work finally, in the light of day.
That's right, they do have that one scene outside, just as they're leaving.
And I don't like, some people are giving it like a lot of like some of the reviews that I saw. It's they're basically saying like it's a one-trick pony. If people have done it before and whatever. But I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I had a good time with it. I don't know that I have as much problem with it that some other people have, but then again, I also liked all those movies that we've referenced, so maybe that's why. Maybe it's appealing to me because those films appeal to me as well.
Yeah, and honestly,
and because I work in an office culture. Who knows? Right.
Yeah, of course, this is something you might think about when you go to work. It's overall, it's definitely damning of American office culture, but at the same time, I don't know.
I mean, I think
it's a lot of fun.
Well, and I think what some people are criticizing is that office culture has changed a lot, or at least it's changed for some people that are more youthful now. Let's say, like, because office culture in like a lot of different companies have I think it has evolved to an extent, so you're not seeing quite as much as this kind of behavior. But that said, I still think that this is unfortunately very, very true still in a lot of places. So I don't know that it's necessarily yet gone. So I liked it. But yeah, that's about it. Anything else?
It's a little picture. Yeah, I don't have much else. It was just. I would recommend it heartily to anybody listening who is into a laugh. I mean, we've done two of these comedies back to back, but sometimes you need that when you're dealing with a genre that is so depressing on other times, other occasions. So, after watching so many, or two comedies in a row, it's only fair that we watch something more serious. Don't you agree, HA?
Oh yeah, and I'd love to hear you announce the next one.
So we're gonna the next time we get together on a reanimated, we're gonna be reviewing a straight-faced, serious film by the title Navy SEALs versus Zombies, and it promises to be a real world approach to how I suppose Navy SEALls would tackle the
Zombie.
zombie apocalypse.
I think it's what inquiring minds want to know about.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, when I started to read a series. I read the first book by this author. I think his name's Arthur Chesser or Sean Chesser or something like that. He's one of these guys. If you go into Kindle Library, he's got hundreds of zombie novels, and they're all faux military. So it's like some operator who finds himself in the zombie apocalypse, and so it concentrates a lot on his equipment and what hat he's wearing and what he thinks of the political state of the Democrats running the country and this kind of stuff, which actually made it really unpleasant to read. But I feel like this movie might be just a film version of that, maybe
All
without
right.
the politics.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay, so Joe, be sure to join us again next time when we review Navy SEALs versus Zombies. In the meantime, you can get a hold of us if you need to at Reanimated PCast on Twitter, reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, and on our website at reanimatedpodcast.com. And we thank you for listening. Run out and see blood-sucking bastards as soon as you can. And ciao.
Ciao.